Yeah,
That's
agreed.
for sure. Well, hello, welcome. This is the Nonprofit Network. I'm Shelby Stokes.
Kelly Schenfeld.
Hey, gang, good afternoon. Polly Schenfeld here.
That's right. Today's topic, should you stay on script?
Great topic, Shelby.
Should you stay on script? So,
Such a good topic.
Man.
we kind of had a mixed bag of events this weekend. I haven't heard much about your weekend.
Because you didn't
but
work.
I wasn't working,
Well-
but I was working.
That's right.
But
Yeah,
not
exactly.
working for you.
You were mechanicking.
Yes, I
You were
was
mechanicking. You were fixing your car. Yeah, for sure. So we had 3 events between the two of us this last weekend, and I think we had varying degrees of staying on script. That's
Yeah.
what it sounds like to me.
And before we
So-
start this, I want to just say Mark and I got the rare opportunity to work with our Shelby.
Oh.
And for Mark and I, we talked after you left.
Yeah.
We were like, dang, you know what? That was special for us.
Shelby was Mark's MC.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. I was the MC.
That was
at
so
a little
special for
elementary
us,
school.
Shelby.
Yeah.
It was special
bet
for
it
Mark and
was.
I.
And when's the last
It
time we got
was.
to work with each other? It's
Like,
been a minute.
A long time.
It's been a minute. Yeah, it's been a long minute. And like for me, it was so weird because you're taking like kind of a back seat to the auctioneer role.
Mhm.
So watching you and Mark work the floor, I was just like, oh, guess I'm just gonna stand here and wait for the next item. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And you guys are working the room and running all around covered in sweat. I'm just like, this is kind of nice. These lights are a little bright. But I guess I can do it.
But it was also on the flip side wonderful to have an MC that knew your moves, knows where you're doing, knows what you're doing, already knew we were getting that second dialed in
Yeah.
before Mark even said anything. And, you know, I just wanted to say it was an absolute pleasure
Yeah.
for us to play.
Yeah, it was. It definitely was. And then the next day, I had an MC that completely went rogue throughout
We
the
didn't
entire
have-
night.
yeah.
And I think that essentially what I came to like really think about in this last couple of days is like how essential an MC can be for these events. Like you are the timekeeper of the night. And quite often we can get so locked into like, how do I bring value? And then all of a sudden you're talking about yourself and which you bring value, how you think you bring value. And I witnessed this on Saturday. We had somebody who is not a professionally trained MC, but is an on-screen personality. So comes in with the utmost confidence in the world, great personality, connects early, it's great. But essentially what we saw a disregard for the overall timeline and mechanics that were set in place. So how that affected me is it threw me off through the course of the night because, I'm trying to do things and now I realize that I kind of have an MC that could take too much time. And when I lose trust in that MC, I find myself overcompensating, filling every gap of time. And now I'm like running in and trying to thank people by name, but not taking the whole minute to pause and read the name. I'm trying to like half read the name and read it.
Because you're having to move
and
it
then,
along.
And then you're fumbling names and it puts you in a really weird situation. So I know that like I had 2 very different experiences. On Friday, I knew what my auctioneer expected of me. I knew that we had a timeline issue. I knew we had a group that was like very social and loud and liked to drink and party and wanted to get to the party. So if you review that night that we had together, it was very efficient. It was very efficient. We were there. If you remember, my welcome was, hi, my name is Shelby Stokes. We're doing the dessert dash. Who's raising the most money for the dessert dash, right? So we got out in the crowd. Oh, we'll do 1,000. We'll do 1,500. Okay, you've set the bar. $1,000 a table to be right? So like that, though it was an introduce myself getting comfortable, it came with purpose.
It did, and there was
Cool, man.
there
Sounds
was
cool.
no space to introduce people in the beginning.
Right.
There was no space. Like, it was go.
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
And it was run, but you are masterful on that microphone.
You're too kind.
You are.
You're too kind. Yeah. I mean, we had a good event. Well, I got humbled the next day. That's what I'll say about that. So
right back down to earth.
Okay, we're here. But what I want to say is like sometimes an MC can follow a script too closely at times. You have to leave room to live in the moment. But so often that MC role has so much to do with being in the moment and reacting to what's happening in the room. And if you're not reading your audience, you're falling short.
You are.
Yeah.
And you are the master of ceremonies or the mistress of ceremonies, one of the two. And I think to reassure an MC that the night is not about them or how often they're speaking, The night you are there to move that timeline fluently. You are there to hold people away, keep people up, increase the energy, decrease the energy. You have a very important job if you're the MC. If you're an item reader, very different.
Yeah.
Two very different things.
Yeah. Very true. Very true. And something that I've kind of covered in the WCA class regarding benefit auctions is it's really on the auctioneer to coach and train your MC. And I think that's one thing I could be guilty of this last weekend.
If they're coachable.
If they're coachable. Because we ran into a situation where I don't know how coachable this individual was because it was a larger than life personality, a celebrity attraction got this person that role. And then all of a sudden it's hard to maintain that person that is not so receptive to feedback, right? So I think that's something that you really got to consider when you are standing in front of people. We go back time and time again that these fundraising events are revenue minutes. You're only in a room with this group of people for so long. And any time that you're burning that's not on the North Star of raising money for that fundraising is essentially a lost opportunity for the organization.
Yeah, and I think it's important to have that conversation about what role your MC serves.
Can I interrupt you and make this a teaching moment?
Yeah.
Because you brought up a really good point, I thought. The difference between an MC and an item reader.
Yep.
Can we just take 2 minutes and discuss that?
Yeah, an MC is a master of ceremonies or the mistress of ceremonies, and they are there from bell to bell. Like Shelby, the second Mark and him took the stage, it was a team effort to move the night along, but Mark really relied on Shelby to the mechanics of moving the night along. The dessert dash, the fun to need video, the fun to need speaker, this, that, the other thing, right?
Right.
As opposed to, well, tonight we've got Shelby reading the items for us. So Shelby, welcome to the stage. By then,
So you're saying in that scenario that you're giving the example of now, an MC would be the auctioneer.
in a lot of cases.
Welcome everybody, and thanks for being here. Here's what we got going on. We're going to hear from Sally. We got 12 items, we got video, we got desserts, all kinds of fun. And I want to thank everybody. We're going to hear from our executive director. Sally speaks, and then auctioneer comes back up. Now, I'm going to introduce my item reader.
Yeah. Or I would, and instead
And
of calling,
then the other person comes up, and that is their job, is to just read the items.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's an important role for your
You see
auctioneer,
where
to
I'm
be
going
honest
here?
with you.
Yeah,
Mark does not like to read the items because you guys, your tank is, you're wearing it down.
Right.
And so an item reader is valuable.
Yeah, well, being able to gather your thoughts is very essential.
Yeah.
And when you are the item reader and the MC and the auctioneer, you are go the entire time. And that can be difficult because you are doing so many things at once that
Balls
you don't
can get
even
dropped.
have the opportunity to have a side conversation because you're constantly on that microphone. In terms of your question, in regards to the difference between an MC and an item reader, I personally don't. I see them as almost one and the same, right? Very often we'll see individuals come out and say, okay, this is the MC and this is the item reader. And normally that happens when an MC refuses to be the item reader, which we've seen in the past.
I've had it happen to me.
So hopefully,
Yeah, right? No,
Yes.
I'm not the item reader, I'm the MC.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
well, perfect. But I think ultimately the roles are very similar, right? Your goal is to get in there, connect with the individuals, and then deliver. As an MC or item reader, you still have the same goal in that you want this run as efficiently as possible without getting off the beaten path too often, right?
So suggest to our audience, suggest to them how, when you are having issues, or you have a rogue MC, or you have an MC that is breaking the fluid.
Right.
So you as an auctioneer or a bid spotter or whatever, you're into a fluid, you're rolling, you're going, and it gets broken. And it's difficult to get it back after it gets broken.
Right.
How do you fix that night of during item 2 and you got 10 more items?
Yeah.
How, as an auctioneer or a bid spotter, do you send your bid spotter? Talk us through that, and what is best practices or ideas that you guys have for rectifying that particular thing?
You want to take that? You want me to
Well,
hop on it?
Sure, I'll take a stab at it because I think
I'll take a stab at it.
ego has a lot to do with it. If introduce yourself to this person you met for the very first time that night, half an hour before the doors open, and you realize that you've got an arrogant, controlling individual on your hands, trying to rein that person in is going to be very difficult.
Right.
A bid spotter, depending on who it is,
Can help you with that.
could, but not all of our bid spotters are capable of reining in some arrogant person.
Right.
But me as the auctioneer, when am I going to have time on stage? I would, if it was that bad, and I've been in this situation before,
Yeah, I think everybody.
sold $5,000 into 253. Hey, we got to go. Okay?
Yeah.
Something like that. But if you got it, maybe you need to explain in more detail what this individual did to you last week.
I mean, like, there was, it did to me, makes me sound like a victim. No, I mean, I think she brought a lot of good energy, and I thought that she was really good at connecting with the group. The problem that we saw was kind of coming off script at certain key moments, which I'll share. Back to the previous question of how do you maintain that, or how do you help coach that individual? I think that you really have to be on your game and step in sometimes on that individual when they get off course, right? So for example, one of the issues that we had last year, not even this year with this event, but last year, was that we sold an item under value and the individual came back and said, oh man, that went cheap. Yes, it did, but thank you so much for that generous donation. Let's move on to the next item, item number 3, right? You're kind of kidding them away from where they don't need to be.
Yeah.
And one thing that I've always coached people on is like when your item sells below value, don't bring attention to that.
No,
Don't bring
move,
attention
move,
to that.
move on.
Move forward. The damage is done. You putting a spotlight on the train wreck isn't going to help anybody.
No.
Right? So that's just one example with the redirect. I think that people that are sharing that MC role with somebody else, there is a delicate dance, and I wouldn't be afraid to step on individuals to get where you need to go. Right? I really don't. In terms of coaching beforehand, I think that can be essential, but at the same time, things are going to happen over the course of the night and things are going to evolve, right? I can think of a few examples where I thought the MC was going to be solid, and about 4 drinks in, not so solid as that MC, right? So then you see the quality kind of diminish, and that's when it's like, well, we got a lot of items, let's give them the skinny, or let's get 3 points on what's going on with this item, right? So I think you can coach them over the microphone in an eloquent way that's not like, shut up, let's move on.
Yeah.
If they're on time and if they're a part of the meeting, which sometimes you don't have that be
Right.
the case. Like we've had many meetings where the MC, the auctioneer, the production people, everybody's supposed to be there, the chairs, everybody that's a part of developing this night is supposed to be there. If they're not a part of the meeting, you're kind of a little bit screwed on that, to be honest with you, because you don't have that opportunity. If they are a part of the meeting, there hasn't been a meeting that we've had that I, as a bid spotter, whether I ever get it back or not, I hand every one of the MCs that we have a highlighter at the beginning of the meeting. And I say, highlight the stuff that you think is necessary to say only.
Yes.
Or if
definitely.
something's mentioned in the meeting, you can look to that MC and they can put you out, but you can say, that's worth saying, but the rest of the stuff isn't.
And one thing to posit for anybody that's an MC or an auctioneer or striving to be, keep in mind that often the descriptions that you're reading of these items are cut and paste from the catalog.
Yep.
So as soon as you get to that first item and you say, you will have a week's getaway and blah, 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 blah. If that's verbatim to the script, they're off. They're done. They're not listening to you
Nope.
anymore that
You
night.
lost them.
So you need to come in and hit those high marks.
With the
But
highlighter.
also as an MC, you need to have those 3 points that you're going to hit when you describe that item. Furthermore, like if you want to bring your own color or pizzazz to these items, make 3 notes that seem like good ideas or funny ideas that you can bring up, and know that you're probably not going to use all 3 of those. And the reason I say that is because an experience that we had recently is that you get to the end of the night, people are checking their watch,
Yep.
people are getting home to babysitters, and now you're going to go on about 10 minutes about an item that's going to be sold, and everyone wants to get out the door. Hit the 3 high marks, sell the item, and if you need to step in on the auctioneer while they're selling it, so be it. But for the most part, it's time versus money. And the more you're kind of wasting that time in the description of that item, the less susceptible the audience is going to be to pay attention to you.
You can feel the audience deflate.
Right.
As soon as somebody starts reading verbatim the catalog, You can
You're
just
doomed.
feel
Yeah.
it deflate. And
Did you feel like this individual went off script and was talking more about themselves?
No,
Was the stories that she was relating, did it relate to the charity? Or was it, let me tell you a story about me?
It was a lack of familiarity with the script is really what it was.
Yeah.
Because the personal details that this individual was sharing was connectivity, did have a place where
Yeah.
she
Okay.
was building relationship before we asked for money. The issue that we saw was the info was not being familiarized with the script. Right? I have an event planner who has gone above and beyond to write up a script for us. Okay, you're going to finish this item, you're going to throw to a video, you're going to come back, explain why you're raising money, and you're going to go and ask for donations, right? So when we get to that moment of the night, before we even throw it to the video, it was a personal story about how important the organization and her upbringing had to do within this community. Powerful stuff.
Yep.
Perfect place for it. The problem is we didn't know where that person was going. So by the time they got done with that personal story, picked up the script and, okay, and now we're going to ask for donations. No, we're going to a video next,
gotcha.
right? So
Really important to know.
So when you should you stay on script? You should know the script well enough to know what the script's intent is. If the script's intent is to go to a video, set up the ask, and go to donations, you can play jazz in between those moments, right? You can go off script and
Yep.
massage it and share
Yeah,
that personal
well said.
story.
Yes.
as long as you
But
got
you
the main
gotta
goal.
get back on the path.
There you go.
And if you don't get back on the path, you're not doing your job.
Right.
Furthermore, if you go up there and stay directly on the script, that's the safe play, but that's not where those magical moments come from, right? Reading that script, knowing that script, but being able to kind of connect in that moment is essential as well. So, for example, if you're at the end of the night and you're going to sell an item, you like listing off those 3 jokes that you have written down and reading that whole description isn't beneficial to that group. Look around. People are checking out. Hit those 3 items and move on. And we've seen early MCs say, well, I've made all these notes, I put all this effort in, so I'm going to do it anyway, right? I can remember a few virtual shows that we were in here at like 10:15.
Yep.
Our viewership is dropping, and all of a sudden
That's
you're still
right.
trying your material on. And it's like, this isn't the place. This isn't the time, right? These people are going to check out if we don't engage them. So I think that's really something to know what that script is intended for, hit those highlights and move on. You know, another example of this was, and I hate to beat up on the weekend, but you know, like this individual comes out, talks about, you know, why they're there, connectivity, all good stuff, great introduction, love it, and then looks at me. Now what? Well, we're supposed to be thanking sponsors, so you know, let me thank the sponsors, right? So it becomes like this dance where I, as the professional, I, as the leader of that organization, have to make some judgment calls to keep us going where we need to go.
Well, because they're going to
Yeah.
come back to you when the night doesn't flow.
And I'm waiting for that phone call to come in.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I think that one last thing I'll say, and this is kind of an aside a little bit, but essentially what happened is we got through our donation levels. We get to the last level, which is scheduled to be $250. And then the MC goes, oh, well, we haven't asked for $100. We should ask for $100. And I look to the back of the room and I see my event planner. No, don't do it. Can't go to 100. Well, let's thank everybody for their generosity. We're going to move on. If you'd like to make a donation later, you can. What, is $100 not good enough? And then all of a sudden, the crowd starts being like, whoa, what do you mean? Yeah, let's do 100. What are you waiting for? Yeah.
Oh
So,
my
yeah, let's do it.
God.
Great idea. So we go to 100, boom, 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 take 20 donations or so, which we appreciate every dollar. Don't
That's right.
misunderstand me. But essentially what happened is the software was not set up to take those
Yep.
$100 donations. So what had to have happen is they had to initialize, readjust the software, reboot it somehow, and that caused a lag on the back end, which made it so people couldn't check out. So I guess what I'm getting at
Which
is
made people fussy.
which made some people upset because they couldn't check out. So I guess the intent of raising the most money possible seems valid, seems like the right way to go. On the back end, if you're not set up for that framework, it can cause a snowball effect, which is going to thus put more conflict or stress on the system in terms of checkout.
And I think
So
that's
have a
important.
plan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I think
and
that's
stick
really
to it.
important to
Yeah.
understand
Yeah.
that you as an auctioneer, bid spotter, MC, we are all there for the common reason of making it be a good guest experience,
Yep.
right? And anything that detracts from a guest experience is affecting possibly next year's dollars.
Well,
Yeah.
So you got to remember that when you're going to go rogue.
it goes back to the familiarity with material. I had a call with this individual early in the week to set up for the event, and I said, okay, I noticed we're not going to $100. Is that the plan? Yep, that's the plan. This has been discussed with the board on
Set.
whether they're going to go here. Leadership has chosen not to go to that level.
For whatever reason.
For whatever reason, right? For whatever that reason is.
That's right.
Whether we've already captured those donations with games and fundraising opportunities before, whether they've already courted a lot of people for $100, if they're charging X amount of dollars for the ticket,
Right.
it may not seem justifiable to ask for another 100 and put people into those scenarios.
We don't need to bleed
The
'em.
fact of the matter is, that decision was made before we even arrived that night. So for us to go rogue and make this happen, which seems like the perfect opportunity, right? We got all this group of people, they want to give $100. Why wouldn't you? That's why you wouldn't. The back end knock-on effect that had on our team caused more stress than we anticipated.
Yeah.
And for that, I apologize. And you're in a situation where, the group wants to give more. Sure,
You
let's
can't
do
go
it,
against
right?
that.
Yeah.
You can't go against
That
that.
individual who came up with this idea on stage with you, I guarantee has no idea
No.
that the software system is not set up like this and it's not going to go as smooth as you think.
And I'm going to be honest, I didn't realize the knock-on effect it would have. I really didn't. Like, okay, $100 donations, sure, why not? When I have somebody waving me off saying no, 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 I'm like, oh, come on. They're donations. They're here. Why not? Money in hand, right? Why not take these? And then on the back end, you're like, oh, that's why we didn't
That's
do that.
Yeah.
But I think it all goes back to if that conversation would have been asked earlier in the week, like the way I asked it, then we wouldn't have felt to go rogue. So there was a lot of things that I step away from that event and be like, okay, that could have gone better. How could it go better? Better coaching in the future.
Yeah,
Have
and
that MC on the call earlier in the week.
And I also
okay, there you
don't
go.
necessarily think that just because you're a personality that you will be a good MC. There is that misnomer too. Yes, you're drawing that attention to the crowd, but possibly use them elsewhere, or you've got to be able to have the auctioneer, maybe not even on the call with anybody else, but like you call your bid spotters, you let them know what time you want them there.
Yeah.
You should be able to call your MC and say, hey, let's go over the script together.
Right.
Right? And that would have been that opportunity for you to say, what we're not going to do is we're going to stick to the
Yeah.
script when it comes to this,
Well,
this, and this.
And
But-
it was a knock-on effect, right? Like, because I replayed on my mind, I was there at 4:00. Doors opened at 6,
yeah, that was us too.
right? And
Oh.
then this individual was like, well, I'm not going to be there at 4. I've done this before. I can show up at 5:30.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, sure. And then 5:30 hits, guests arrive at 6, and then you got to focus on a silent auction, potential
Yeah, you're
doubles. We pulled an item out of the silent to put in live, which
Yep.
was the right move. Speaking of staying on script,
Right.
like you gotta be able to play jazz, right? And what happened was, and I know I'm kind of telling stories out of school now, but essentially what happened was there's a campus that had 4 parking spots in their parking lot. Well, state has stepped in and said those 4 parking spots has to go to 2 because you have to be ADA compliant.
Yep,
Is that
yep,
what it is?
yep,
ADA?
yep, yep.
Handicap spots, right? So they're taking those 4 down to 2. Well, now offering those parking spots becomes much more of a desired opportunity.
Yeah.
So we put it in live. So I'm sitting here saying, stay on script, stay on script, stay on script. We went off script and raised an additional 20 grand for the school.
But now you
So-
didn't make that decision on your own. So
true.
when in fact the people that hired you have that, it would have been a totally different creature if the chair or somebody from there came up to you and said, "We got to go to $100," right? That's very different.
Yeah. Yes.
Just like
Yes.
moving those parking spots is very
But
different.
we made the decision as a team.
as a
Right?
team.
As a team. We don't talk poorly about our competition, but I can
Never.
tell you that I've heard stories about individuals going to auction and being like, who wants to be in the heads and tails game or whatever it is? Oh, that's just about everybody. Let's just charge everybody for heads and tails and see how it goes. And on the back end of that, talk about a nightmare.
Nightmare.
Like reversing transactions time and time again on a way out the door. So you're like, what is this? Oh, that's for the game. You played the game? No, I didn't play the game. So making those impulsive decisions on stage without forethought or communication with the team can cause a lot more stress. Mm-hmm. And the last thing I will say, the biggest thing that's happening with communities is some of these teams are getting burned out because of the amount of stress that happens in these events. The smoother you can make this experience, the longer we will be able to continue to use this fundraising format. Yeah. The more stressful it is, the more burnout you have on your team. The more burnout you have on your team, the less the less the team is capable of executing on these fundraising type environments. Agreed. So what you have to realize is the knock-on effect of a good idea in the moment can be detrimental on the back end.
And I think you also have to remember that it is as important to meet with your MC as it is your auctioneer, because they have to work hand in hand, and there is no MC ever that shouldn't be there early enough to have a meeting with the guy or gal that he or she is going to be working hand in hand with.
It could be easily taken for granted. We've been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
I've been doing this a long time. You have. A lot of our team has. Hey, I got this MC. They say, yeah, I've done this many times. I can do it. Okay. Then you meet them and it's like, okay. Do I need to say, hey, we've got X amount of time. We got to be out of here by 9. You don't think sometimes that you have to reiterate that. Kelly, don't go rogue.
Right.
Don't ask for $100. Computer system's not set up for that.
Yeah. Right.
Don't do this.
I think if you come with the intent that your goal is to make the most the most appealing fundraising event, if that is your North Star and your intent, that will come off in that conversation. Because sometimes we bump into these celebrity MCs. Oh, I've done this 1,000 times. Oh yeah, I'm good in front of a crowd. That is a different skill set than this.
Yes.
Like you can't just go up there and
Agreed.
make jokes because you don't have their full attention. Like this is a dynamic shift for many. So be leery when people come in and say, yeah, I got this, no problem.
Yep.
Make sure their intent is in the right spot when you're having these conversations up front.
As well as
Absolutely.
decide how smoothly do you want your night to run. And hiring a professional MC is to your best benefit, and find that celebrity person in some other form. You will have the same effect if you use that celebrity person in a different way.
Yeah.
But hiring a professional MC, they know what their job is. You know, Mark and Shelby was the MC that night. They still met. They still, even though they knew each other, and we all know how the night needs to play out, they still did note taking. Yeah. They still said, what are you going to say? What am I going to say? They still did all that.
And we still made mistakes.
Yes.
We still made mistakes. There were a couple instances over the course of the night that were flat out mistakes that we missed. But because we were in communication and our intent was in the right spot, we overcame those and succeeded. Yep. We owned up to them at the end of the night. We knew we messed up, and they gave us the grace, knowing that we were all in for them.
That's right.
You can still make a mistake as long as you've done the homework.
Yep. And they see that, and they know that. Right?
I don't, yeah. I mean,
and your auctioneer's going to cover your ass, and you're going to cover your auctioneer. Yep. That's a good, cohesive MC. So, again, think about it before you hire a...
Well, I mean, the goal being stay on script. Like, we've given you a lot of examples.
The goal is to hire a Stokes Auction Group MC. Okay, well, come on. And you can call Shelby.
Mute.
Shelby will place an awesome MC in your event.
Well, the fact of the matter is like the end goal.
I have confidence in Shelby.
So much confidence in Shelby. But I mean, I think like essentially, should you stay on script? Yes and no. Yes, you should stay on script. Know where you're going and what the end goal of your night is, and then plan the margins. The reason that people get into this business is because of the margins, the personalities they see, the humor they bring to the room, the efficiency of the night. All those things is what attracts MCs to these positions. But you have to be able to stay on script and plan those margins to succeed.
And use your highlighter.
Use
Don't be
your highlighter.
afraid of the highlighter.
Here's my favorite. 67.50, 7,000, going once, going twice. Sold 67.50. MC goes, wow, why don't you sell a second one to the other guy?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
Yep.
don't you have 2 of those?
Oh boy.
Yes.
They say we have
Yes,
2
Right
of
over
those.
the microphone.
Yes,
Are you
we
serious?
do. I'm so glad you brought that up. Yeah, no, definitely. Well, hey, that brings us to a close. I think we ran a little bit longer than we normally do, but I hope this is good information. It feels good on our end. So, yeah, keep us in your head, keep us in your thoughts. Thank you for joining us this week and every week talking nonprofit events.
Go make good choices and hire a Stokes Auction Group MC.
Be good to yourself and the people around you. All
That
right, later, gang.
That right
Yeah.
there is being
Keep
off script.
keep
Yeah.
your,
Yeah.
keep your vision clear and your heart right, and give us a call.
And always go do good.
Give
Go
us
do
a call.
it.
Put an MC in there that you love.
And Elfine.